Welcome back into the film room. I am your host, Eric Turner. I am joined today, as always, by Nate Geary from WGR. What's going on, Nate?
Hey, man, season's over. Our last real look. Luckily, we'll be breaking down the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. 5 touchdowns, his best performance, I think, to date, other than the other Miami Dolphins performance this year. But, I mean, this is a side conversation in itself. But, man, the Dolphins defense and their coaching staff, I was going to say, is probably having nightmares. But they're gone. It was quite an interesting final week to the season for the Bills and for the quarterback Josh Allen as we'll break it down here.
Yeah, we're going to pick a few plays from the game, good and bad, as we normally do. Allen finished the game 17-26 for 224 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception that we're going to cover, and of course he rushed for a couple touchdowns as well. So what are your overall thoughts on his game versus the Dolphins, as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so not his most accurate showing as a pro quarterback, or really at all in his career. I would say it's probably pretty par to what we're used to. A lot of nice on the money throws and a lot of throws you're like, I still think when you keep going back to those inaccurate throws, you can pretty much pinpoint on a given play where those inaccuracies stem from, which is good, right? Because they're easily diagnosable. If we can diagnose why we think a ball was thrown inaccurately, there's no reason why him personally and or Brian Dable can't look at something and say, hey, this is what we got to clean up on this throw. So what we've seen from an inaccuracy standpoint are some things that are easily identifiable and hopefully pretty easily correctable from the standpoint of his accuracy. But in terms of, again, being the best player on the field, it has to sit well with you from the standpoint of, is he the most accurate passer? No. Is he week in and week out changing the way that defenses are defending him? Yes. And more importantly, is he the best player on the field? And I think in a couple of games this year, it's been a no question yes. So can those little parts of his passing game be hopefully refined? Yes. And I'll say yes, hopefully. But the good news is he is changing the way defenses have to try to defend him. And he, little by little, whether or not people that want to acknowledge it or not, he is changing a bit of the narrative that has been set from him really from his pre-draft process on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we talk about it every week. Is he affecting the game? Hands down, he is. And like you said, he is one of the best athletes on the field week in and week out. And I'm glad you talked about, what to expect from him as far as accuracy goes and, the often talked about completion percentage. Well, this game should give Bills fans a lot of hope in that regard because he finished the game 65% completion percentage. And he did it, in the short area, Nate. It's something that he struggled with, obviously from college and early on in this season, throwing with touch, throwing with accuracy and good placement into that short area. Well, there's no surprise that when the offensive coordinator committed to actually, throwing in that short area, not just throwing it deep 20% of the time like they do on the season. Allen throws 20% of his passes deep. And obviously those are low percentage passes, and those passes that fall incomplete are obviously going to affect the completion percentage. But in this game, he was 10 of 14 in that 0 to 9 yard range.
Huge.
And that's huge. And obviously most of his yards were in that range as well. I think it was right near 100 yards. And 2 of his touchdowns were in that 0 to 9 range. So the offense committed to playing small ball, throwing it underneath out of 21 personnel, and really just a lot of 2 wide receiver sets. And Allen excelled. And so it's no surprise that, he completed a lot of those passes. He even completed a few behind the line of scrimmage, and it helped his completion percentage. So, every game we're going to hear about this for Allen for probably the next 2 years about completion percentage. Well, okay, I understand that, but you also have to take into account what is his strength, his big arm, and they're going to continue to maximize that arm and pushing it down the field. So you got to live with a lower pass percentage or a completion percentage with a guy like Allen. But when he does get the opportunity to throw into that short area or even on screens behind the line of scrimmage, he has to complete them, and he did that versus the Dolphins.
And Eric, if you remember going into last week's film, his Week 16 film, there was a couple instances to LeSean McCoy where me and you are just were a little frustrated because we're like, get rid of the ball, trust what you're seeing, get rid of it and throw it accurately. Well, we weren't the only ones that saw that on film, and it was evident early in the game when he hit LeSean McCoy on the same route he hesitated on the week before and hit him right away in stride, and that was the difference between a 3 or 4 yard gain. And That's the stuff that each week you want to see. Is he identifying the same issues we are watching film, and is he doing something about it? And a play like that's important. And you talked about some of his short intermediate accuracy improving this week. Now, by the numbers, yes. Now, overall, as a player, is he truly, improving in that area? I mean, probably won't know till next year.
Yeah.
But he made the golf analogy earlier in the preseason. And for me, I think of it this way. Josh Allen is kind of like, if you want to, compare his arm to something, it's like having a driver, having that big one wood in your bag that you're going to use to blast off on every par 5 and every par 4. And what you as a regular golfer might notice is instead of swinging 100%, where you have a 25% accuracy rating down the middle of the fairway, when you swing it around 75%, that percentage of that ball going straight down the fairway opposed to slicing right or left is much greater, because when you're taking a little something off the ball, and that's what he's going to start to continue to realize as he moves on here in the offseason, is on those slant routes, those 5-yard slant routes don't need to be gunned in like you're trying to throw it into a small window. When it's open, you don't need to throw it with 100% capacity. Sometimes some of those balls are best thrown just getting them there accurately and thinking about all of the fundamentals in your throwing motion. And sometimes it's just a matter of taking a little bit off to become a more prolific and obviously more accurate passer. So again, things he's diagnosing, people who just have a common knowledge of watching the game and understanding what goes into playing the quarterback position, if we can identify it and he's identifying it, those are good things that you could say, hey, he's learning from his mistakes and applying them the very next week.
With that said, we're going to jump into the first play, and it's a play that Allen extended and found Chris Ivory down the sideline for a big gain. It was the longest gain of the game, and it was a 46-yard completion, but it's something that I want people to pay attention to when they go back and look at this film, because this is a game where the Dolphins blitzed him 16 times. He took off 4 different times, and it looked like he was going to here, but he ran out of real estate. But he was 7 for 11 in situations where the Dolphins blitzed him, which is a 63.6 completion percentage for 88 yards. And on the season, Nate, he hasn't been really good in that department. When teams want to blitz him, he struggled to have an outlet, to find a solution. And he was only completing 48% of those passes on the season. But as we jump into this first play, we're going to see how well he handled it in this game, and you'll see a couple of these plays. So with that said, let's take a look at the first play. It's a 3rd and 16 play, Nate, and the Bills are at the 47-yard line in the first quarter. And they come out in the empty set. You love the empty set, right, Nate?
Sure do.
And the Dolphins bring a 5-man pressure, and they're trying to hit this deep over route right here. Obviously, one of Allen's favorite throws this season. What I want you to pay attention to is just how he handles himself when that pressure's coming. You're going to see a blitz from Kiko Alonso right here from depth. I mean, this is something he struggled with this year, right, Nate?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see, too, what the defense is trying to do. They're overloading one side of the line of scrimmage. So if you're a rookie quarterback, you're thinking, okay, we need to shift our protection to the left in this situation, right? Well, the defense has a stunt here that is basically going to try to confuse the offensive lineman by having that guy stunt around to the same place the linebacker's blitzing. What they're trying to do is confuse their offensive linemen's alignments. And on this play, I thought, and really all game long, I thought that the offensive line did a nice job when pressure was called. And I think this is continuing to be a theme for Allen, is that he's starting to diagnose these a little bit better pre-snap. And on this play, he had a free rusher basically because, again, Kiko Alonso blitzes, and it sort of confuses the offensive alignment here. Yeah. He does a nice job of breaking away from the free man that comes along here, which I think is Wake on this play, who's, I mean, at this point in his career isn't what he used to be, but he's still a very good pass rusher in the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you'll see it better from the tight camera angle. But the free rusher comes because John Miller and Jordan Mills, they both kind of go after Alonso there. And then the looper, as you had mentioned, from the top of the screen does come in to play there. But free rusher in his face and just a slight move, and he's outside the pocket, and now he's in scramble mode. And as you can see, I mean, pretty much everyone's pretty much covered here. I mean, everyone is covered all the way down the field. Even the outlet that he eventually does hit, Chris Ivory, is covered here. The issue is as Allen gets outside the pocket, we'll see Jerome Baker, the linebacker, leave Ivory, and then he just floats it up over the top of him, and then Ivory is off to the races. But on the tail end, here comes the big hit from Logan Thomas on the cornerback there, and he just wipes him out. And I'm surprised Ivory didn't get in here. So Nate, we're looking at it from the end zone angle, and as you mentioned, the offensive line does blow the protection here. You'll see Alonso come late, and he goes right at the tackle, and he wants Jordan Mills to obviously pick him up, and Mills bites. He takes the knees, and that does leave that free rusher in his face. Josh Allen had a solution to this play. I mean, he didn't panic. The break contained. He didn't panic at all.
Yeah, and this play right here is a really good example of defenses being scared shitless of his ability to beat them with their feet. Not only that, but their defensive coordinator probably harped in on him. When he breaks the pocket, this is an all-hands-on-deck type of play. Any other quarterback, this is covered. Jerome Baker does not need to leave his man in this situation. He's got Kiko Alonso and another, I think it's Robert Quinn, who are both scraping down line of scrimmage. There is no reason for Jerome Baker to leave his man to become a run defender against Josh Allen on this play. But he does, and it's because of his ability to run with the football, and they already got beat badly by Josh Allen on the ground their previous game. So this is an all-hands-on-deck approach that opens this play up. What I was talking about, how defensive coordinators are starting to defend him differently. This is a perfect example of that. The defense does everything. All it takes is one guy, and in this case, Jerome Baker, to play outside of what he's asked to do on this play, and tries to be, and he realizes it too, because he's like, Josh Allen's running out of room. There's no need for him to leave his defender.
Undisciplined, yeah.
Right. It's an undisciplined play by a young player. But again, I think it goes to Josh Allen's ability to beat teams with his feet that opened up this pass, which was the longest pass of the game. And one of the main reasons they scored this early in the game and they go up 14-0 is because of this play on a 3rd and long situation. So his feet are starting to put worry in how teams defend him. And this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, if you're going to blitz him, if you're going to bring a 5-man pressure and play a man on the back end,
you better be disciplined.
You better be disciplined. You better stay on your man, because I believe Allen finished 8 for 11 versus man coverage for 88 yards and a couple touchdowns. So this obviously set up a score here, but you just have to remain disciplined when you play against him. You got to stay contained. You got to stay in your lanes. You got to stay on your man, because if he gets outside the pocket, you can see, and talk about touch throw. I mean, he's running full speed to his right, thrown back across his body, and something that obviously he's done a few times this year where we've knocked him for it, and he's kind of gotten away with a couple too where they should have been intercepted. Well, here's one that you're not really hearing the national media talk about this week, going against his body, throwing it across here, floating it to Ivory for the big game. But we'll keep this little nugget for ourselves. But look at this hustle by Logan Thomas on the back end of this play, and he wipes this guy out.
Depletes him. And the thing I love about just this play, if you're Logan Thomas, it's clean. He hits him square in the shoulder like a dump truck. This is a former quarterback who we've seen this at the line of scrimmage from Logan Thomas this year. Logan Thomas really, really brought a physical aspect to his game as a blocker this year that we haven't seen in the past from him. I know this is Josh Allen breakdown, but that play really, obviously that's the one from this game that stood out to me. Like, he absolutely, that guy's soul left his body on the play.
All right, Nate, the next play, the Bills are up 7-0. It's 1st and 10. They're in the red zone. They were 4 for 4 in the red zone in this game halfway through the first quarter. And the Bills come out in 21 personnel, and they run a little old school run pass option. It's actually used to be referred to as a run pass tag. And basically what that means is the coach is giving Josh Allen a run and a pass in the huddle. Allen can check to a run or to the pass. Well, they have an ISO lined up to the weak side. And then, of course, the check or the pass portion of this is just a quick slant to the bottom of the screen to Zay Jones. And what's going to decide Josh Allen throwing this is how many guys are in the box. You're going to see on first down, they're expecting run. They have 8 in the box there, right, Nate? So obviously it's checked to the quick slant to Zay Jones. But I want you to talk about Josh Allen, maybe his mechanics here, and whether this pass was intended to be back shoulder or not.
So this is why I think run pass options out of or under center can be a little tricky, because what he's understanding here is if you watch on any run pass option, you have the option to run the football. And what does that mean for your offensive lineman? It means that they are in run technique. That means they're getting down field. And on this instance, what you don't want to do is wait forever for a play like this. Then you have an ineligible man downfield or one of those situations that can pop up. What I love about this is not only does he understand the urgency of getting the ball out as quick as possible. You and I, on a number of occasions, have not necessarily killed him, but we've criticized his ability on like a hot route read to just get the ball out immediately. He doesn't even take a 3-step drop here. He takes 1 step out from under center, and the ball is out of his hands faster than I've probably seen at any point this year on any given throw. It's inaccurate. There's no doubt about this. This was not a designed back shoulder slant play. That's not a thing. I just want to.
Yeah, this isn't a slant stop like we used to run with Sammy Watkins.
Right. This isn't one of those plays, okay? On this play, it was a poorly thrown football, but I love the adjustment that Zay Jones makes to it.
Yeah.
He uses it to his advantage. There is nobody to the outside. If this was a design play, well, it was pretty damn smart. But this is one of those plays you can tell it's a little just by his mechanics. If you watch that front foot, that left foot, where it's aiming when the ball is released, he is throwing where he's aiming right now, okay? Now, does he necessarily want to lead Zay Jones into the middle of the field? That's the design of the play. But because of the inaccurate throw, it actually turns into a touchdown. If he throws this ball accurately, it's probably not even a first down.
Yeah, it's not going to get in the end zone.
It's not going to get in the end zone. But what you'd like, I think everything else other than the throw, and you really, I can't even really put a negative mark on it because it ended up going for a touchdown. It's hard to find a negative touchdown throw, right?
Yeah.
But what I love about this play is everything else. First of all, it's the diagnosis, right? Understanding there's 8 men in the box. This is not an ideal run position from the personnel packages we have. Secondly, I need to get the ball out on time and quickly. What's my best matchup? Well, I'm going to take the matchup that's got a 5-yard cushion, not a 2-yard cushion on the other side. Thirdly, it's making the throw with 1 step, understanding the ball needs to come out quick, on time, and unless you'd like a little bit more on target here, but everything that went into this throw and into this play design and into this successful play, I love everything about it from the standpoint of Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, if he can start to be efficient with these kind of plays, and he was in this game, they called it 5 times, only 1 went incomplete, and of course it was behind him for similar reasons that you saw here. He just didn't get his footwork in line, and it's such a quick play that sometimes he rushes it. I even saw one of them where it was an inaccurate pass, and he kind of hopped at the top when he went to go throw it. So if he can get efficient at these are going to be there, especially on first downs when teams want to stack the box against him in the run game, which is non-existent right now. So just imagine if they can get that squared away, getting these. I mean, this is something that Aaron Rodgers, he just feasts on this stuff.
Correct.
Usually 4 to 5 times a game, if not more. So if you can get this part of his game, going and getting him to be efficient in these situations, it can be a dangerous thing. And it just comes down to reps. It comes down to him and his mechanics. And it's something that I'm sure that they're going to continue to work on and harp on in the offseason. But props to Zay Jones, like you said, on the body control and adjustment there and getting into the end zone and putting the Bills up 2 touchdowns. All right, Nate, the next play, the Bills are up 14-7 right before the half, 48 seconds on the clock. It's 2nd and 12. The Bills ran it on first down. They lose 2 yards, and for some reason the staff wants to call a pass now, and of course it's intercepted by Rashad Jones. But let's go ahead and break this down. The Bills are in a 3-by-1 set, and they move McCoy off to Allen's left, and it's just kind of done to get an idea, with the movement from Kiko or the safeties and see how they adjust to him. But the defense does a great job of disguising this coverage and really baiting Josh Allen here. And I'll let it roll because I'm going to break it down.
If you look at the safety here, I think if you're looking at this from Josh Allen's point of view, you might think cover 3. But because of where that safety's depth is, that cover 3, that should really be out of the books. But if you're looking at the cornerback position, you're saying, okay, they're 8 yards off the football. You've got 1 high safety. Okay, maybe this is a cover 3 look. But when you play this, you're going to see why it turns into this cover 2 robber look that is really popular in the league. And I'm just from an experience standpoint, is one of the harder defenses to diagnose because it's all about that safety, and you really have to have really good eye discipline on a play like this against this specific coverage.
Yeah, for you guys that follow us, we talk about it every week, how Dable has helped Josh Allen with his reads and made it easy for him by just identifying 1 versus 2 high looks and where to go with the ball based on that. Where do his reads or his progression start based on that safety look? And this one's a murky look. And this is, like you said, one of the more difficult coverages to diagnose pre to post snap, because it can show as cover 1, it can show as cover 2, but then post snap it can rotate. And teams like to do this, and we're going to see this more and more with Allen, because what it does is it puts these corners, your speedsters in coverage, it puts them in deep halves rather than safeties when the Bills want to push the ball down the field. So instead of getting a safety matched up with, say, Isaiah McKenzie or Robert Foster down the field, then you're going to have guys that are quicker and can stay with those guys when they do want to run zone coverage. So it's a very deceiving look. And when I let it roll, you're going to see those 2 corners are going to bail into deep halves. And the robber is Rashad Jones. And we'll see it better from the tight camera angle. But the 2 guys that you need to pay attention to and that really fool Josh Allen pre to post snap is Kiko Alonso and Rashad Jones, because you'll see the alignment of Alonso. But when Allen takes a snap, he's looking at Alonso. And Alonso, if you watch it from beginning to end, he's bailing. So he's bailing to that hook to curl area. So that curl by Croom appears open to him, but he lost sight of the robber in Rashad Jones. And of course, Jones jumps and makes a heck of a play and takes it to the house for 6. But it's a rookie play. Give some kudos for trying to make that tackle there. But what else on this play caught your eye, Nate, from pre to post snap?
And two, one of the things that I think probably went into him losing Rashad Jones is, if you look when he makes his plant step, Rashad Jones is directly behind Kiko Alonso, where he probably didn't even know that Rashad Jones was there any longer. Like right here, if you even go like another frame or 2 forward, they are basically right on top of each other, Alonso and Jones. They're right on the hash. One's behind the other. So if you're thinking, well, I'm going to get this underneath Alonso, you're probably thinking that's the right read in that play. But it turns out that robber over the top is just he disguised himself really well on this play. That's a veteran. That's a very good safety in the league, and probably one of the better safeties in our division. So it just goes to show you that sometimes defenses are going to get the better, especially of a young rookie quarterback. And this is one example of that. On this play, I think you'll probably get an idea a little bit better than the other angle of what exactly Josh saw, that really made him or inclined him to throw the ball there. Because if you looked on the other side, Isaiah McKenzie, he leaks out, but on this cover 2 look, those flats are pretty well covered. It's a really good defensive call. And I don't think they ran the best play to combat it. So like all in all, I think really he probably wanted to look backside to the left side, but it never made it there because he had predetermined that based on the coverage he read and what Kiko Alonso was doing, that his key was to throw to the tight end and make a nice positive play. And it just, defense made a better play. That's just going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, this is a great coverage versus what Allen does well of throwing those landmark throws, those curls on the numbers, those spacing concepts. This is one way to combat that because, as I mentioned, you're getting those corners in the deep halves, but you're also getting these, defenders able to undercut the one receivers to both sides while also getting to the flats and taking away those flat routes. So, I mean, this is really, this play is really not that good of a play versus this coverage. But it really came down to, I didn't like the play call. The play design is obviously, it's beaten on this play, it's fine. That's going to happen in the game. But Allen just has to do a better job of diagnosing this. And this is a good teach tape play, honestly, because it's something that, he hadn't seen a lot of in this year. And we'll see it from the tight camera angle here. You'll see Allen, put McCoy into motion to his left side there. And what that does to Alonso, it does slide him over a little bit, but I want you to watch post-snap and what Alonso is doing. I mean, look at him. He's selling that he's getting to that hook to curl area, and that middle is going to be open for Croom. So although Allen does lose Jones here, I mean, he's reading that mic, and he's throwing off that mic, who is Kiko Alonso here. And you can't blame him from throwing it there. He's got to do a better job of processing the field.
Yeah, and I was going to even mention ball placement a little bit, but really, it's just the wrong read. There's not a lot. There isn't a play to be made here on this specific route and against this defense. So that's where Josh Allen has to understand that an incompletion or on a play like this, a throwaway, is the more positive play than trying to force the football here or throwing it low to maybe where he thinks only his receiver can make the play. There just isn't a play to be made here, frankly. And that's another building block of his progression moving forward, is understanding when the defense is beating you, because you have to realize too that across the league, defenses, they've got high paid players too. You know, there are all pro, there are Hall of Fame players on the other side of the ball getting paid a lot of money to stop you. And sometimes they just win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was one of those plays too, but I'd say the root of this call is on the staff. You don't run it on first. You don't run it on first down.
To throw it on second down.
To throw it on second down, and then they were caught in a pickle on and what to do. And usually, like that first play, that drive starter is really the gauge on how you're going to approach this before the half situation. You lose 2 yards on a play to LaShawn McCoy. You don't come out on second and long and decide to throw it in this situation. So I think they set him up to fail here. And it's just one of those plays that it wasn't designed well, and just a better play from Rashad Jones of the Dolphins. All right, Nate, next play is a 2nd and 10 situation. We're in the third quarter, and the Bills come out in an empty set. They run a Patriots staple. It looks like this. It's 74 Haas X follow. It's very similar, different personnel grouping here, but the routes I want to pay attention to are the route by Jason Croom, because it's a pass that Allen places perfectly for him on a 26-yard gain. But I want to break it down from beginning to end, because it's a play where, he recognized the pressure. And here's the play drawn up. But I want to show the pressure that they're bringing. Again, I talked about how he handled the blitz this game. And this was one of those plays where he diagnosed a lot on this play. And you'll see the blitzer coming off the edge here, Minkah Fitzpatrick. And that is going to be Allen's guy. And we'll see it better from the camera angle later. But to the top of the screen, Nate, they have 3 receivers. So to the top, they have 3 defenders. So they have a corner, they have a safety here. This is Cameron Wake in a 2-point stance. And then, of course, they have Kiko Alonso, who's shown in a AA, who obviously could still drop into that area to the top of the screen. Well, all right, when the ball is snapped, Alonso right here is going to drop to the bottom of the screen, and Wake is basically going to be one-on-one with Jason Croom. And that's a matchup obviously you're going to take all day, but Josh Allen shows his poise, stands in there with the hit coming, the guy that he's responsible for, and he throws a really nice pass to Croom. So what do you like about this play pre to post snap?
Well, for me, it's the recognition of the free blitzer, because that really becomes his man, right? Like, it's his job to get rid of the football before he gets there. So he's got to diagnose where the best available route is, and some of the things pre-snap that you see, and I think you can shine a light right on that outside corner up towards the numbers on the top of the screen, is his ability here to not really take the bait, right? Because I think originally, if you're trying to get rid of this football quickly, you might look right away at the numbers and hitting that. I think it's a running back out there. I think it might be LaShawn McCoy that's sitting out there. Is hitting that right away and just let him make a play and get a player to miss. But that play's covered, even though he's still 6.5, 7 yards off of him. That's what that play's designed there defensively to look for. Now, you see the slot fade, which the safety's over the top for. So really what this defense does is open up this pivot route to Jason Croom because of the play call. So the offense is really dictating where the defenders are going on this play, and he does a nice job of not only getting rid of the football before the defender can come in and make a play on the quarterback, but he throws the ball accurately that leads him away from his defender. Now, if he has to stop and come back for this football, he's likely stopped for a nominal gain. On this play, it's the accuracy of the football thrown that allows this play to get all those yards after catch. Great route run by Jason Croom. Good throw, even better concept. I think to maybe it is the overarching value of this play is the play structure that is being run here against this defense. But it starts with Allen diagnosing the free blitzer and getting rid of it on time.
Yeah, it's a great play from beginning and not just by Allen, not the route just by Croom, but the offensive line, which I'll show here in a minute. And it's a coverage that I broke down with Jordan Poyer called Palms coverage. So this corner at the top of the screen, he's reading anything short to the flats. He's jumping, and that's why you see him hang low with McCoy here. And they have a vertical route, and that vertical route by Robert Foster here is passed on to the safety. So that leaves that third defender, Cameron Wake, as the short hole player. So he's basically has to defend at all costs any type of short crossing route and take him. And it's almost like a pattern matching coverage. Well, that little pivot route, that little slant return route by Croom is so nice because he's selling that inside route. All right, Nate, so we're in an empty set here, and you'll see Allen here pointing off to his left. Of course, that's pointing at the defensive back here. Again, something that he struggled with this year. If you guys look at my timeline today, I posted a play where Green Bay fooled him off the edge with a blitzer and he was sacked. Well, he learned from that, and teams have tested him in this way several times this year. But let's break down the protection here, because it's obviously a 5-man protection with Croom going into a route, and the defense really has the numbers advantage here. So what's going to happen is Groy, Taylor, and Dawkins are all going to be sliding to the left. So with the double A gap showing, you have 1, 2, 3 defenders right there that those 3 offensive linemen are going to pick up. Now, to the right side, you have Alonso in the A gap, you have a B gap defender here, and of course you have Cameron Wake, who's a pass rusher, and in his heyday was one of the best. So they're really outnumbered on the right side of the field here, having 2 offensive linemen versus 3 defenders who could blitz. So Allen is technically responsible for that cornerback off to his left-hand side, but that he also has to be cognizant that, hey, I'm outnumbered on the right side too, and so do the offensive linemen. So of course, when the ball snapped, they're going to try to block the most immediate threat, which typically is inside out. So they'll block inside out on this play. But this is a good play by Allen as far as throwing the ball, because he has to know all of that. And then when he gets the ball and he's looking to throw, he understands that, okay, I got a corner out wide, I got a safety deep, right? Who's the third guy that's going to be covering my third receiver? And so it's either going to be Kiko Alonso probably, or Cameron Wake. It's got to be one of those 2 guys. I know it could probably be a D tackle, but that's not likely here.
Yeah, right.
There's only 2 guys that could really cover Croom here. So although they may not have the advantage in pass protection and pass rushers, they do have a numbers advantage possibly in the passing game. And if you're going to drop Cameron Wake versus a tight end, you're going to take that every single day, and he does here. And talk about this placement on this pass here, because it's one of his, probably one of his more pinpoint passes this season.
Thing of beauty. And I think he does a nice job. I don't know that in this angle you could probably see it the best. I think what he does is recognize right off the bat where Kiko Alonso is going. So you know what he's going to do? He's going to replace Kiko Alonso. Kiko Alonso bails to get to the right side to cover for the blitz on this play. That way, you're right. He knows now that he's got a defensive lineman, whether it's Wake, whether it's the defensive tackle, it doesn't matter. He's got a defensive lineman on his tight end. Tight end, advantage offense. And the ball's out quick. It's on time, but you're right. The ball placement is pinpoint. It's where exactly it needs to be. I mentioned, had it been a yard behind him, had he had to stop or jump or reach down, this probably isn't as successful of a play, but it is as good as it gets because of the ball placement, the understanding of where the defenders are. Again, I talk about this almost every week, is understanding the defensive leverage. Cameron Wake, even in his prime, probably isn't a great coverage guy. He's a defensive end, he's a pass rusher. So the leverage on this play, I mean, look at him. His head is over his toes. He's basically looking to the right. He has to do a lot to get the momentum of himself back to Jason Croom, who knows where the play's going. Cameron Wake does not. So it's a really good play design, but maybe to me the most important thing here is the execution and the ball placement, which are A+.
Yeah, I mean, ball placement, spatial awareness, understanding of defenders in space. I mean, just a lot of good things on this play. And just to kind of wrap this up, I'll give Ike Bacher here a little credit, because as that one rusher becomes the contain rusher, he does a good job of keeping his head on a swivel, and he does pick up that looper coming from the boundary. So good play by him, but overall good play for the Bills. It was, I think, one of 7 or 8 plays of over 20 yards, and this one to a young tight end who hopefully for Bills fans continues to develop for Josh Allen. And with that said, we'll go ahead and move on to the next play. All right, Nate, the next play is 3rd and 5. So we're on a money down. We're inside at the 5-yard line, third quarter. Game's tied up, and the Bills come out, and they're in an empty set, but they motion McCoy into the backfield to kind of identify the defense. And as expected, they do run man coverage here, but it's not what it looks like. I mean, it's something they tried fooling Allen here, right? You're going to see a lot of movement from these 2 safeties here, a lot of movement there. But everyone is really heads up on the receivers. I mean, it looks like man coverage, but is it cover 1, cover 0? You don't really know until we actually let it roll. And you'll see both the edge defenders, both these linebackers end up blitzing. You have obviously 4 down linemen that are rushing as well. So, and ended up being cover 0. And props to Allen, because pre-snap, he does check to this. He alerts this right there. He gets the alert call for a cover 0 pressure. So he obviously goes with his favorite target, Robert Foster. So talk about what you liked on this play, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I love the back shoulder throw. Obviously.
The Geary.
That's right. I love the throw. I don't know. Right before this play started, the chemistry that's building between these two is, maybe the first time you felt really good about a quarterback wide receiver combination. And it's just going to sound crazy, but since like JP Lossman and Lee Evans, where you just have this innate ability to find each other down the field. And on this play, man-to-man coverage, he made, and I think the broadcast alluded to this earlier when they ran a similar type defense inside the red zone, is he's understanding here that the ball's got to go to the outside. You've got to get the ball to a one-on. Who's your best one-on-one matchup here? And it's Robert Foster, because that's who you trust. It may not be the best matchup, but in your mind, the best matchup is the guy that you feel the most confident in. Right now, up to the week 17, this point, him and Robert Foster have a really nice chemistry that they're building. And this is such a great, goes into, it's just not defendable. Like, the defender does everything in his power. He has good coverage here. There's nothing else he can do for a perfectly thrown football, and this is it. And I don't care if you want to use the Zay Jones touchdown that we already broke down. It was an inaccurate throw, sure. But the last two throws are big-time NFL accurate thrown balls. There isn't a lot of examples of this in college. So everyone that says, well, Josh Allen being good would go against everything we know as evaluators about quarterbacks. Yeah, well, maybe true. But eventually the exception was going to come around. And am I saying that Josh Allen after this play is the exception? No. But what I'm saying is, these are the types of plays in the NFL today that the best quarterbacks are beating defenses with. When they're covered, they're not. And on this type of play, that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he in a money situation when he has to convert versus man coverage, you find your best matchup, you go with the guy you trust. And I mean, it always comes down to players, not plays. And this is one of those downs where he shows it. And it's not really a well-designed play. It's just an isolation route.
Right.
I like how Robert Foster, in a one-on-one situation, he attacks that inside shoulder, gets that DB to open up his hips a little bit to the field. He uses 4 little quick steps right there, and then he's bursting to the back corner of the end zone. But as soon as he plants with that right foot right there, what is he doing? He's looking back at his quarterback. And we talk about chemistry, this is one of those plays where, okay, right now we don't really know what type of leverage that corner has. So we don't know whether Allen should really throw the fade. We don't know if Foster should maybe, break this to the middle of the field or that back shoulder. But the two people that do know what's going to happen here are the two people that are throwing the pass and receiving it here. And this is why it's a great play. And that chemistry is so important, because they were on the same page here. And he throws that back shoulder pass, and Foster is able to adjust it and catch it in his body. I know a lot of people, they ding Robert Foster for his double catching. Well, this is one of those plays where a defender is going to be trying to work through you here, so you have to catch it with your body here. He catches the ball, and of course gets his 2 feet down for the touchdown. But let's take a look at it from the tight camera angle, Nate, because it's honestly, it's one of those plays where you're watching it at home, you see it from the broadcast, you really can't diagnose what happened here, but this is what he's looking at here. And it starts off with Kiko Alonso here, because if you let it roll from the beginning here, Alonso shifts from inside of Croom to outside, and that to me screams that, okay, if he's playing outside leverage right here, he's really giving up the middle of the field. Yeah. He's got that safety help in the middle. Okay, that's kind of a tip right there. And I know Allen mentioned it in one of his press conferences that he saw the linebacker Alonso here kind of messing around, I think his quote was. They were trying to confuse him again, kind of like that play with Rashad Jones. But Allen didn't bite this time. He realizes that the safety is stacked right here for a reason. He realizes that Alonso is outside for a reason. He realizes that Jerome Baker is out here for a reason. And he diagnoses it as cover 0. So he nails down the coverage perfectly, checks to that isolation route, and the offense obviously executes here. He does it with getting the ball out of his hands, something that he did really well this week. His snap to attempt was 2.43 seconds, Beautiful. Which is well below his Beautiful. 3.01 second snap to attempt on the season. So just good, field awareness, diagnosis of the coverage, having that check and able to go through that. So a lot of people talk about, Oh yeah, Allen doesn't go through progressions, which we know is hogwash. He does absolutely do that. Allen is checking to these plays and having the final say on a lot of these plays and the execution of it. And this is one he just executed perfectly.
Yeah, and it's just recognition. Like, look at the clutter that's over the middle of the field here. Like, where do you want to go with this football? Where the defenders aren't. And you can see, listen, he holds on to this ball for another second. He's definitely not getting the window to throw this football like he is. So these plays are impossible to defend from a pass rusher standpoint, because what are you supposed to do if the quarterback gets the ball out in under 3 seconds? Like, what are you supposed to do as a defender? I don't care who you are. It's very difficult for you to get to the quarterback in under 3 seconds. And not only that, if you're going to throw the ball perfectly to a back shoulder, what's the defender supposed to do against the wide receiver other than hope that he drops it? So, this is one of those plays where you just give it to the offense. But it starts to me with, you're right, the diagnosis of why it is that I want to go with the ball. And, why do I want to go there? When do I go there? Okay, and now make an accurate throw. He did all three. He checked a lot of boxes in this play. But overall in this game, I thought he checked a lot of boxes for me. Again, this just goes into the continued weekly development of Josh Allen.
And a lot of good things on this play. And he trusted his eyes, right? He diagnosed it pre to post snap, and he wasn't hesitating, because that hesitation would have, like you said, it would have closed that window to Robert Foster. So good play, another good play, really, from beginning to end, from Josh Allen, the offensive line, the receivers. That rapport, that chemistry is definitely showing. All right, Nate, next play, the Bills are up 11 points, 28-17. We're in the fourth quarter with 12:19 on the clock. First down play, ball right around midfield, and it's a 21 personnel set, but the Bills bring in an extra offensive lineman. They run a little play action, and it's a deep pass on a rope from Josh Allen to Zay Jones. But a lot of good things on this play. Again, it was supposed to be a play action fake to Chris Ivory to Josh Allen, and the offense is right. But because of the apparent blitzer coming off the edge, again, another play where Josh Allen was blitzed and he was still able to execute and complete the ball. This one down the field, obviously to Zay Jones, running the deep dig route here, as you can see it. But the two weapons that, Josh Allen, obviously we talk about rapport and chemistry, that he obviously relies on a lot, and he's got Foster in the slot here, Zay Jones to the top, and Foster is almost like a clear out here. He's trying to get to that post safety, using his eyes to hold that post safety so that the dig by Zay Jones can be wide open versus that single high set. Go ahead and talk about this play from beginning to end, Nate.
Yeah, so in most cases, you don't want to necessarily see your quarterback shift in the pocket or veer off in the pocket. What I like about this play is him moving just about a yard to his left. It generates a little bit better of a throwing lane for him to complete this pass, and it also gives him and his wide receiver the necessary half to 3/4 of a second to time this play up properly. So his pocket movement here is actually really nice, and it actually helps with the timing of the route. It's not a super accurately thrown ball. I would have liked to see him maybe lead him a little bit more here, but again, I'm not going to really gripe with the completed pass. I just love what he's able to do during the midst of his drop here to create a nice throwing lane for himself to see a wide open receiver and move away from the blitz. But this is great. I mean, you only have two guys going out for a route, and you've got three immediate defenders. He does a nice job of not only Zay Jones getting open on this play, but throwing an accurate football. You don't really see, in my opinion, I don't love two wide receivers or two players going out on a specific pass play, even if it's a play action. It's just you're giving too much of a good odds for your defense. But you're right. I obviously the hold here that you can see that wasn't called on this play, just as being dragged from behind Robert Foster is here. But I like the shift in the pocket to clear that throwing lane, and obviously the throw is a nice one here. But you're right, occupying the safety was a big part of why this play got open.
Yeah, and the pocket movement that you talked about, it starts with your running back picking up the blitz and recognizing that his man, Chris Ivory's man, Fitzpatrick here, is blitzing. And a lot of times when you have a play action pass called and they're obviously supposed to be faking it this way, the running back has the option to call that play fake off so that he can pick up that free rusher. And he does a great job of doing that here, and he sticks with it. And Fitzpatrick takes the inside angle on the ball, which I don't know why you do that as a blitzer. typically want to, work outside in so that you keep Allen in the pocket. Well, Fitzpatrick goes inside, Ivory picks him up, and then Allen with his eyes downfield. His eyes are downfield here, guys. With his eyes downfield, he just manipulates the pocket, slides to his left just a little bit around that block, and as you said, it helps with this throwing lane. Obviously, like the really nice throwing lane here now, and he's slightly rolling to his left. He has to set his feet quickly, and then his God-given ability of just rifling it down the field on a rope. On a 30-yard pass to Zay Jones, it was pretty. And Steve Bearline on the broadcast, he was ecstatic about this play because of the talents that Allen showed, and one of the reasons why he was so giddy about that player. All right, Nate, the last play here is the deep touchdown pass to Zay Jones. The Bills are up 35-17. It's a fourth quarter, 1st and 10 situation. They bring out 11 personnel, and they motion Zay Jones tighter to the formation. And these are routes that are on tape. I just don't understand how the Dolphins drop this coverage. But you'll see Jones, as I've outlined here, run basically to the front pylon here, a little deep mesh route, kind of like we've covered several times already this year. But post-snap, I want to take a look at the coverage because when the ball is snapped, you're going to see 4 defenders underneath here, Nate, and they're going to have 3 guys deep. So with 4 defenders underneath, you got 3 deep. It's some sort of, cover 3. It could be a cover 3 cloud. It could honestly be similar to that 2 robber call from earlier that Allen was intercepted. You see the robber possibly being him right there, but we'll go with cover 3 cloud. It's some kind of 4 under 3 deep look here. Good play fake, nice deep drop by Allen. And you see the, again, slight manipulation of the pocket here as that defender's at his feet. There's trash at his feet. He stays in there, doesn't try to escape the pocket. Guy in his face, and drops it in the bucket to Zay Jones at the front pylon for the touchdown. So talk about this play, what you liked, and, kind of how it all unfolded.
Well, first of all, the pocket presence here is grade A. I think I tweeted it out right after the play. I loved him stepping into a murky pocket. This is a play that you've seen from him in the past bail out of. Like the first sign of anything that is around his feet, the first sign, he drops his eyes and he bails. And then he looks to become a passer again. He stayed inside the pocket, delivers a beautiful ball. And hey, thanks defense for not having really any. Listen, if we can't fully break down exactly what defense they're running, I don't think they know what defense they're running right now either, because you would think that corner would probably pass off is that Deontay Thompson up top, or is that Zay Jones that's coming across right there?
Right there.
It doesn't matter who it is. But my thought would be that you want to pass him off to the middle safety and stay with him, but he just goes, and then the other safety comes across. Like, I don't think they have a real good understanding of what their roles are in this defense, and I'm glad that Josh Allen was able to exploit it, because if he leaves the pocket, he probably doesn't find Zay Jones, but he stays in and he lets the play develop that extra half second, and it pays off because he ends up throwing a really accurate throwing football here. Listen, he's wide open 100%. That's a 35-yard throw, using from across the field to the opposite sideline.
Yeah,
this isn't flat-footed. This isn't the easiest throw to make. And people will say, well, he's got to hit it. He's wide open. I agree. But for Josh Allen to make this throw as perfect and as accurately as he is, it's a great play by him, because this could have easily led him into the sideline or he didn't have to come back to the ball. It was a perfectly placed football.
Yeah, and you mentioned the blown coverage, and regardless of whether it's 3 cloud or 2 robber, what should have happened here? If it's 2 robber, this guy is going to be running with this crossing route. That's fine. As the receiver to the top of the screen heads to the post, what should happen if that's the coverage is that the corner should drop off, and then of course pick up Zay Jones, and then the corner to the bottom of the screen, he's pointing out right now, he's gonna fall off, and he would take that post run by that receiver to the top of the screen if that's 2 robber. Now, if it was cover 3 cloud, what's going to happen? You're going to have 3 deep, right? You're going to have a guy here, you're going to have a guy here, and you're going to have a guy here. So regardless of the coverage, it's diagnosed by Allen. He gets his eyes down the field, as you mentioned, from the right hash and right around the 35-yard line. He's got his eyes on that corner. If that corner goes to the post with him, there's no way that this linebacker or this hook the curl the flat defender is going to be able to cover Zay Jones, as Zay Jones gets depth at that mesh point to the front pylon. So Good read by Allen, and as you mentioned, the throw with trash at his feet, with the guard being pushed back into his lap. I mean, he honestly has to short arm this throw too, flat-footed, to get it to Zay Jones, but he gets it there without a problem. You'll see it from the tight camera angle because it's really pretty. It's a nice deep drop, but that pocket is closing in on him as he's trying to push the ball down the field. So he's got Dawkins right there, dropping on top of that edge rusher, and now Devin Gaucho is right in Josh Allen's face. And again, he has the arm strength, that ability to drop it in the bucket on a short arm throw to Zay Jones. It was just really pretty, man.
Yeah, this one was probably one of my favorite throws from the day. And again, you could probably come back and say, Nate, it's a wide open throw. It's a wide open player. He should make this throw in his sleep. And I agree. It just goes into, for me, the combination of his development. And do you see this throw this accurate on that trajectory in week 4? I don't know. I honestly, I really don't have an answer for you. So that's what, for me, makes this a special type of play, because I don't know that he would have had the ability to do this pre-injury. And I think that just says a lot about Brian Daboll, the coaching. But I think it says a lot about Josh Allen, too, is how much he's learned in the 12 games that he played this year, and how much marked improvement you saw in Week 17 compared to that Green Bay game. And I think it all just goes into, and by the way, I mean, we did the Patriots breakdown last week, and it was a miserable game for Josh Allen. And it turns out Bill Belichick's pretty good at defending rookies. Sam Darnold probably had one of his worst games as a pro against Bill Belichick this week, in Week 17 as well. So Josh Allen, at the end of the day, this is the kind of play that I don't know he makes with as much pinpoint accuracy, and whether or not he even makes that from the pocket, I think, is up for debate in Week 2 or Week 3.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, that would be the biggest takeaway for me, is his comfort in the pocket and poise here. And of course, that throw is nice. I mean, obviously, it's a heck of a throw from the 35-yard line, from the right hash. But it's the type of throw that is more impressive. He could have easily just tried to, muscle this in there with some velocity. No, he put a little arc on it, a little touch, made it a very catchable ball for Zay Jones. The Bills were able to get out of Week 17 and the season with the W. So with that said, Nate, let's wrap this up. What are some of the things that you liked from Allen in this game, and where do we go from here, Nate?
It's a great question. Where do we go from here? Terry Robisky was just reported as out as the Buffalo wide receiver coach for 2019, which is a little surprising to me, considering the impact that I thought he had on some of the young receivers. And I would have liked to see some continuity at the wide receiver position, especially with Zay Jones, as you really saw, I think, a really nice uptick in Zay Jones's production this year, and not only uptick in production but confidence as well. And I think a lot of that has to do with coaching and obviously the development of Robert Foster and the emergence at times of Isaiah McKenzie. That was a surprising move for me. But in terms of this offense and where I see Josh Allen and kind of where we go from here is the continued development and the cerebral development of Josh Allen and understanding, because I think if he becomes the kind of player mentally that I think he maybe gave coaches a sneak peek of, and why I think that I don't know that Josh Allen was their number 1 quarterback coming out. I think he was their number 2 quarterback. I think they really wanted Sam Darnold, but they ended up getting Josh Allen. They'll never say that, but that's my personal opinion on things. I think what made Josh Allen separate himself from Rosen, from Lamar Jackson, and from Baker Mayfield was his ability to use the whiteboard, right? Like, and people say that all the time, but what does that really mean? Well, it's his ability to identify play structures, identify the ability of what everyone else's job is. And Josh Allen is ahead of some of the rookie quarterbacks in some of those areas in his pre-snap diagnosis and some of what he's doing with the offensive line and getting them in better alignments. But I don't know. I think his development from the neck up, to me, is going to be the most important thing this offseason. I think getting back with Jordan Palmer in this offseason too is going to be a big thing for him and some of his mechanics and his accuracy. So I'm just looking forward to seeing Josh Allen with a renewed sense of, I think, well-being. And what I mean by that is I think he now realizes and knows that he deserves and belongs to be in this league, and he can play with just about anybody. So I'm excited to see what they do with putting some talent around him. And I know as the offseason moves along, as we get into this draft talk, that Josh Allen won't necessarily go to the back burner, but it's going to be hard to really break down his development with no more game film. So it's on him now. We talked about what Sean McDermott said about the offseason is it's on the individual players, and we'll see how it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm excited for him because not just because of this game and how he left the season. Obviously, going to leave on a high note with 5 touchdowns in this game and some really good decisions against the Dolphins. But now he's got a full off season, as you said,
Correct.
to kind of hone his craft. Now he's not worrying about the Senior Bowl, the combine,
Right.
doing those training. No, he's going to be doing football training, not training in shorts. So it'll be exciting to see how much better and more refined his mechanics come back next season. But I think you said it correctly, man. I think he blew us away with his football IQ, and I think that's what the coaches did see in him. You talk about the whiteboard, and obviously he's a super coachable kid. I mean, he really is like McDermott Jr. when you hear him at these press conferences. So he obviously buys into what they're selling. He buys into the process. So now that he gets a chance in the offseason to work those mechanics, look back at the film, step back, and take a breath to watch his play from afar in his rookie season. I think it bodes well for his year 2, and that's a year where the Bills are obviously going to try to get him some weapons and do their best to do that, and they have the resources. They have obviously a lot of assets to do that. So with that said, we're going to wrap up this last film session of the 2018 season. Nate, where can everyone find you on social media?
At Nate Geary WGR, of course, and now the draft season kicks off officially, basically at the start of the year. It'll be time to really kind of dig into the field now. Now that I'm not going to be focused on the quarterback position, I'll get to dive in some of the other positions, which I think I'm most excited to really look at the tight end position and the wide receiver position in this draft, because both are really, really deep and maybe not super top heavy. But definitely day 2 and day 3 is going to be filled with really good skilled position players for the Bills to get better this offseason. So looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, no doubt. That's going to be fun this year. Obviously, last year was our first year at the Senior Bowl as Cover 1 analyst. So this year is going to be a little different. We got to see Josh Allen and a lot of, honestly, the guys that the Bills brought in at the Senior Bowl. This year, it's going to be a different focus. We're going to have, a little more focus on offensive line, a little more focus on tight end. So you can expect some video breakdowns from us, from Nate and I, here in the next few months until the draft. We're just going to be attacking it from a different angle, and that is fun, and I'm excited about it. And hopefully the Bills have found their franchise QB, and hopefully you guys learned a bunch from these film room sessions. These are obviously things we love to do, and it's really what our brand is built on. So thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Eric Turner. That's Nate Geary from WGR. Thanks for tuning in.